I often talk to entrepreneurs, online business owners, and creators who are overwhelmed and often paralyzed by AI nowadays. There's so much going on, there's so much noise. They feel like everyone else is using it and leveraging and crushing it, and they feel a bit anxious about falling behind. And even though they really want to use it, they understand the importance of using it in their business, they just having a hard time to start and leverage it to the fullest extent. So today I'm sharing 7 biggest mistakes that I see online entrepreneurs and creators are making, and I'm going to share what to do instead. Hi, I'm Elena, and on this channel I help online entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, and creators like you turn their passions, interests, and skills into profitable online income streams with AI. Together we discover how to leverage AI to skip all the busy work, how to stay in your zone of genius, and unlock new opportunities that AI brings without the overwhelm. So if that sounds interesting to you, hit that subscribe button and join our community here on YouTube. So the promise of AI is incredible, and we all are aware that there is so many things that just happened over the last few years that completely turned this world upside down, I would say. And the promise is incredible, right? So it's saving time, finding new opportunities, scaling your business, even enhancing your creativity. But often when it comes to implementation, a lot of people fall into these traps of using AI in a way that results in a very generic content, in a very suboptimal outcomes. And they have this constant feeling like they're missing out, or they're not doing it good enough, or like they're not really leveraging it to the fullest extent. By the end of this video, you'll have some clear ideas on how to implement AI in your business, how to skip all the overwhelm, and how to leverage these tools to the highest extent possible. Let's dive in. So mistake number 1 is endless consumption without implementation. And we've all been there, right? Like you find a great 100 prompts for social media and you buy this product or you download those, and then you maybe try here and there, but you're not really learning how to leverage that. So you consume a lot of information, but you're not putting this into action because it all feels quite scattered all over the place. And there is so much going on in the space. It's very easy to end up in this FOMO feeling like you're missing on something and everyone is talking about it and you just like basically consume, but you're not really implementing. The only thing that moves the needle is the practice and you actually using those prompts and sticking with them and improving them and just like navigating from there. So what to do instead is choose one area of your business, right? It could be social media, it could be finding new opportunities, it could be customer support, it could be whatever, but just find one and commit for the next 30 days in mastering this area. So instead of buying another prompt PDF with 500 prompts for $50, just commit to choosing one use case that is relevant for your business and explore how AI can help you. So when you shift from collecting all this information and having all this mental clutter in your head to actually focusing on one, you will learn a lot. You will truly see how new knowledge opens up to you every time you try, every time you prompt, every time you follow up, every time you give more context and so on. So the difference is not more information, it is focused implementation. And if you're thinking, that's great, Elena, I get this point, but I don't really know what kind of specific use cases even to start with that could be relevant for my business that I could try and create. You can download my free 11 quick wins with AI, specifically for solopreneurs and creators, online business owners, where you get very concrete use cases that you can just go ahead and start trying. The prompts are included there, so everything you need to get going is there. And I hope it could be a good resource for you. Let me know what you think. And as I said, it's free. You can just download it in the description of this video. So choose one and stick with it for at least a couple of weeks and improve, iterate, and see where it gets you. Mistake number 2 is tool hopping without mastering the basics. And this is such a big one. Basically, continuously signing up for new tools as soon as you see something on social media, signing up, trying it out, never really using it again. And then it stacks up. All those costs, all those monthly subscriptions, they add up. And the reality is that if you haven't mastered the basics, which is ChatGPT and Claude, for example, so two AI tools, this is like the foundation that will take care of at least 90% of your needs, right? Especially if you're in the beginning, but even if you're like scaling your business. Those tools have developed so much, not the least in the last couple of months, that they absolutely cover the majority of your needs. And once you mastered those, once you've seen that, okay, this is what it could do, this is how I solve these use cases for my business in them, and you feel some limitations, then of course you can go and explore other tools. What you will actually notice, it's not only that those tools are so powerful and they're getting more powerful every single day, that they will cover majority of your needs, but you'll get a lot of mental clarity back, because you're not just going to be overwhelmed of jumping from tool to tool and see which one can do it better. So mistake number 3 is trying to automate without actually creating even a basic workflow for yourself. This promise of AI being able to automate and save you so much time, right? Which is absolutely true. But if you start playing around with automation before actually understanding how your workflow looks like, you're just going to end up in a really messy and very unproductive place. Because let's take social media. So if you're starting a new account, or you're starting a newsletter, or you're starting YouTube, whatever that could be, you see someone like, I've created this automation that takes everything from A to the end, and then you have like from idea to completely ready video with all the thumbnails and so on through one automation process. And it's totally possible, but the problem is, if you're a beginner in this specific workflow, you can't really, the automation will not serve you well, because first you need to create your own workflow to see what works for you and to become good at it, and then you can slowly add automations, like you can turn it into a more automated process and create those automations further on. But if you do it from the beginning, it's either the results will not be that great and you will be disappointed and you'll spend a lot of time setting this up. If you're a complete beginner, don't try to get to level 10. If you're on level 1 or 2, establish your workflow, test your workflow, and then go ahead and learn how to do the automation. So create a simple manual workflow first. Of course, using AI, for example, if you're using it for YouTube, AI can still help you to brainstorm scripts, to create the keywords, to identify the topics that your audience will resonate, to even create thumbnails, like all those things you can do within ChatGPT, right? So create the first draft of workflow, work with it, test it out for a couple of videos, and then gradually introduce AI to enhance and replace certain tasks. So I've seen so many people trying to automate their processes without actually understanding what the process is. And that just waits, they just either get stuck or spend a lot of time without seeing a actually really good result. Don't skip the manual workflow, especially if you're new to this specific skill. Mistake number 4 is outsourcing your authentic voice and expression to AI entirely. And basically, I see people doing this mistake because there is so much, again, social media content saying that AI can create all the social content for you and it can do it super fast, and you just, oh, I want that because I don't want to spend that much time on that. But what happens as a consequence is that the content that you get becomes really generic. It's very easy to spot that it's just AI written and there is no really context or additional input to that. And what I recommend to do instead is, if you're already creating content, let's say you have newsletters, you have YouTube videos, you have your social media feed, whatever, blogs, collect all this data. So collect all this input and feed GPT or Claude, I recommend for this specifically, with that information, right? And work with AI to help you define and remember this voice. So understand what your authentic expression is, and even if you haven't started with creating content yet, you can just brain dump voice notes to Claude or ChatGPT, right? Like your thoughts, how are you thinking? And that also makes it understand what your voice, like how do you talk. So use everything that you have and feed as much information as possible, and then you will see there will be still period of refining it, of course. Like for example, if you fed all this information into a project in ChatGPT or Claude, and then you come there and say, I want to write a new newsletter issue for this week, it will already, like, it will revisit all the style of voice, all the notes, all the content that you've already uploaded. So it will over time become better and better in understanding your voice and how you write and how you express yourself. You can also ask it to ask you 10 questions to understand your style better and then answer those questions in a voice note. So there are multiple ways of doing that. But I would recommend spending time on this instead of just coming to ChatGPT and say, oh, my style is like this person. And then it's really good in adopting styles of writing of other person, but then it's not you, right? Like nothing from you comes into this process. And in my opinion, that's just not a sustainable way of doing business, a meaningful way, because you really want to bring yourself, like your authenticity to the business that you do and what you create. So many creators, especially when it comes to social media, or if you're an online entrepreneur and you create social media content, they start with going to ChatGPT and saying, write this content in my brand voice. And they don't really give any idea what their brand voice is, right? And ChatGPT, it will not say, oh, sorry, I don't really know what your brand voice is. It's just going to spit something out. So it's really important to provide that context before you go ahead and use it as your content creation counterpart. So mistake number 5 is treating the outputs as the final product. So using AI generated content without any significant personalization or back and forth or giving feedback, asking questions, basically without the interaction. And it matters because AI can give you the structure, it can give you ideas, but your unique context and your unique inputs and insights, it's actually what provides value in the end, right? So you never want to replace that. So what to do instead? Use AI as a starting point, as always. So the first output is just like a first suggestion. For example, so imagine that you come to the bookstore and you just come in and say, I want to read a book. And the person who's working in the store, here's the book. And you're like, no, that's not the book that I really want. You don't really give any expectations first. You just ask for a suggestion and it gives it right away. But then you need to refine it. You need to say to the person in the bookstore, say, yeah, I actually really love personal development and I'm interested in this and this. Then they will refine their suggestions and then they will give you more input. And then you're like, still not there. I heard about this author. And so you just start the conversation. And through this conversation, AI would understand really well, what are you after, what are you looking for, and what kind of outputs do you want, and it will be able to improve it. So it's super important to never take the first output ever, because it's just not going to be good. And even though the models are becoming really good sometimes, and for example, now with ChatGPT, they just rolled out last week this memory update, which means that now if you don't turn it off, now it remembers everything across all the chats that you have had with ChatGPT. And this means that it actually will understand you more and more the more you use it and give the better outputs the more you use it. The difference between the mediocre social media content or whatever content you create and actually great content is that people who use AI like 30% as a starting point, as a possibility to not starting from the blank page, right? And then they add 70% of their ideas, their insights, their style. Those are the ones who are succeeding. This is the content that is resonating with the audience. And those who just outsource all of it to ChatGPT and then copy paste it, it's just going to blend with all this endless noise that we're already experiencing in social media. So mistake number 6 is quantity over quality and connection. I think this is a little bit similar to the previous one, but I think I just want to emphasize this separately because we are already currently drowning in AI generated content. I don't remember the stats, but I think it was something that by 2026, like 80% of content online will be AI generated. I think the reality is businesses who will stand up and those who will thrive are the ones that can create deeper value and deeper connection with their audience. And I see a lot of people when they come across this create like 100 pieces of content in 10 seconds, right? Or now you can create images for social media with like infographics and so on, which is great. But I see a lot of people wanting to jump on that and like really produce a lot because they're feeling forced to constantly post on social media, to constantly feed the algorithm. And they just contribute to this noise. And ultimately, in the end, they will be blending in with all this, the rest of this AI noise, right? The content that looks the same, that gives some tiny value, but not really, but like it's just constantly out there. So yes, AI can help you save time on content generation, but use this time to make your content better and to actually cultivate this connection with your audience. So instead of thinking, great, now I have AI, so now instead of 3 times a week, I will be posting 15 times a week, right? With just mediocre stuff. Don't fall into this trap and don't make this mistake. Stay, if you're here, if you're watching this, I know that you're someone who wants to create something meaningful, something of value, that you have, like, you want to help people and you want to build a business around that, around your passions and interests and skills, right? But ultimately, you want to create something meaningful. And in the world where most of the content is entirely meaningless, for me personally, I just realized that this is not for me because that doesn't feel meaningful to me. And when something doesn't feel meaningful, then I know that I'm not going to be able to sustain and do it over a long period of time because there will be like this misalignment, like a glitch between my values and what I'm producing, right? So instead, if you want to use AI to help you create content faster, which it will, do that, but then use the time that you actually saved for cultivating a relationship with your audience in different ways, in a much personal ways, right? So by creating this balance, in a sense, I think you will be able to stand out more and not blend in into all this noise. And mistake number 7, I think this is probably my favorite one, and I haven't heard anyone talking about that, but I'm pretty sure people start to realize that. Mistake number 7 is using AI to escape the learning curve. Especially for new business owners, the more you use AI, the more you open up to the opportunities that it has, right? And you see the possibilities, and the more you practice, the more your mind will be just blown away in a good way. Since they see that those tools are so powerful, they expect AI to eliminate the learning curve of building a business. And when we talk about building a business, especially if you're building a digital business, online business as a one person, you are wearing so many hats, right? And for someone like myself who's coming from working in corporate my entire life, I realized that there is a lot of skills that I have to learn. There is content creation skill, there is Facebook ads skill, there is creating digital product skill, there is marketing, there's all of those things. And while AI can absolutely help you and support, it can really accelerate your learning curve, but it will never be able to replace it. So relying on that and expecting some magic, oh, now I'm just going to give a prompt and it will just build my business for me, I think this is a misconception. And so I think it's problematic because it creates this unrealistic expectations and actually prevents you learning the skill, which is absolutely necessary. You outsource your critical thinking and like just generally you skip on the business skills that you will need in building this business if you want to do it over a long period of time. So I would say use AI for any of those processes, for any of those areas of your business as a partner, right? As a supporter, as an assistant, as a co-creator, but never just rely that it's gonna deliver something entirely bulletproof without your involvement whatsoever. So generally, think about never outsourcing any decision making, because like decision making, that is the skill that you should really cultivate within yourself. And the other side of it is, for example, let's stay with the social media examples, right? Let's say there's so many prompts, or there's so many like content out there where people just come to ChatGPT and say, create a viral reel for my niche, and they give in the niche, and they take this reel, they put it out there, and nothing happens, and people are like, AI doesn't work, like it sucks. And I think this is the most damaging thing, because the successful approach is still using it as your learning accelerator, but not a decision maker, right? Like it just doesn't know. But what you can do instead, you can say, okay, these are the framework like of marketing and consumer psychology. This is some latest research on this topic and the trends that we see when it comes to people's attention, and just give the context or ask it to find the context and then create a better suggestions. But you need to know what to ask for. And that still goes back to, you need to learn those areas of business and read about them and follow people who talk about them, discover different frameworks. That is still the work that you need to do and you need to learn. And when you do that, then it becomes like this really beautiful teaming up with AI where you could really create great results. You need to be in the steering wheel, okay? Please do not outsource the steering wheel to AI next to you and take the passenger seat. You need to be in the driver's seat. When you're in the driving seat, you build your knowledge, you build your skill, you evolve, and you're also at the same time leveraging the incredible intelligence that AI has, right? So this will set you up for long-term success rather than dependence on these tools. So here you have it. Those are 7 mistakes that I see a lot of creators, online business owners, solopreneurs are making, including myself. So this is not theoretical. This is actually lived experience and experiences of other people I interact with. And I just want to say, it is not strange if you feel overwhelmed. It's not strange that you feel like paralyzed, or even if you turned into AI skeptics, right? There's so much happening in this space. The truth is, feeling overwhelmed is entirely normal. But what I want you to realize, if you're building an online business at this point of time in 2025, you really need to give those tools a chance, right? So in the end, you might say, no, I don't want to use it at all. This is what my business will be, entirely AI free. But that needs to be a conscious decision. And that decision can only come after you have done the work and done the practice of trying things out, of improving things, allowing this learning curve to happen and to take time. And then you can make an informed decision. But if you're making this decision without actually understanding the possibilities, the opportunities, and the fact that it is a new skill that you need to master and that takes time, then you're just really missing out. You don't need to master everything at once. So pick one thing, try it out for some period of time and learn from that. And I can promise you that very soon after you've started taking it seriously, you will start thinking, when you have a new task or when you have a new issue in your business or an idea, you're like, I wonder if AI can help. And then you will go to ChatGPT or Claude and you will start a conversation. And that itself is a skill. And the only way to get better at it is practice. So I encourage you not to skip the learning curve, just embrace it. It takes patience, it takes commitment and permission to be imperfect along the way. But I promise you it's completely doable and the rewards that you will get are absolutely worth it. So if you haven't downloaded my free AI Quick Wins workbook in the description below, do that. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up so more people can get the value out of it. And if you want more straightforward learnings and advice on how I'm building my one-person business with AI, follow this channel, hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you in the next video.